There are no blank spaces left on the map. Every coastline drawn, every mountain measured. The map is finished. The planet still keeps places no crowd has reached, places the cameras pass over, places that were famous once and then forgotten. 15 places, 6 continents. A few are familiar. All of them are hiding something. Maps end. Ground does not. Our journey begins in the deep desert of western Kazakhstan. There is no water here. There hasn't been for millions of years. And all of it was the bottom of the sea. This is Boszhira on the Ustyurt Plateau. The blinding white earth is chalk, made from things that were once alive, shells and sea creatures too small to see. They sank and kept sinking until they were 1/4 of a kilometer deep. Then the water drained away and the wind started work. Most of the chalk is dust now, but 2 towers survived. The Kazakhs call them Tisteri, the Fangs. From the rim of the plateau, the towers look small. The rim is 200 meters above them. Pick anything up off the ground down there, and it's a shell. Every white stone here was alive once. That was water that left. This is water that kills. Visitors get 20 minutes. Poás volcano sits in the mountains of Costa Rica, north of San Jose. Cloud forest on every slope. Then the trail reaches the rim, and the green stops. Below is Laguna Caliente, one of the most acidic bodies of water on Earth. The pH sits near 0, roughly battery acid. And the volcano throws it. Without warning, boiling acid lifts hundreds of meters into the air. The gas drifting off it has stripped the hillsides bare, which is why the clock exists. 20 minutes at the rim and concrete shelters beside the path if the gas readings spike. A short walk south is a second crater, Botos. Cold, blue-green, ringed by trees full of hummingbirds and quetzals. It last erupted 7,500 years ago. 1 mountain, 2 lakes. One of them will kill you. Costa Rica allows 20 minutes. Brazil closed the next one. Every year, migrating birds land on a rock in the Atlantic to rest. Most of them do not leave. Ilha da Queimada Grande sits 33 kilometers off the coast of São Paulo. 43 hectares. Forest, rock, and 2,000 to 4,000 golden lanceheads. The sea rose about 11,000 years ago and cut this island off. Their mainland cousins hunt rats. There are no rats here. The only food that arrives has wings. A snake that bites a rat can follow it and wait. A snake that bites a bird gets 1 chance. So the venom got faster, generation after generation, until it could drop a bird where it stood. Brazil closed the island. Only the Navy and licensed researchers land. And the snake itself is critically endangered, from poaching and from fires set to clear its forest. The most feared island on Earth, built by songbirds. That island is full of life. The next place is barely holding together. 7 miles west of Hanksville, Utah, one tower stands in an empty valley. It should not be there. The Long Dong Silver Spire is not granite or sandstone. It is clay and shale, mud, pressed flat and hardened. The softest thing a desert can build with. In February 1993, 2 climbers went up it. There were no cracks to follow. The rock was soft enough that a piton went in anywhere. Sand and dirt came down the face as they climbed. First ascent earns the naming rights. They chose something crude. Guidebooks call it the Spire. Nobody else does. The valley around it is grey and purple, stripped bare. The Mars Society runs a research station in the same desert. No ground on Earth matches Mars more closely. A tower of mud, standing on another planet. That tower is made of mud. This one is solid granite. Getting to Voltsburg takes 2 days, 5 hours by road out of Paramaribo, then 3 hours upriver in a dugout canoe, then 8 kilometers on foot through rainforest. A granite dome in Suriname, 240 meters high. Around it, 16,000 square kilometers of protected forest. Jaguar, harpy eagle, giant river otter. This forest takes 2 meters of rain a year. Everything is soaked. Everything is green. Then the trail leaves the trees and climbs onto bare rock, and the plants change. Cactus, succulents, bromeliads holding water in their leaves. Granite holds nothing. The rain that falls on the dome is gone in minutes, straight off the sides. So the top of this mountain is a desert. 2 meters of rain a year, and cactus on the summit. Voltsburg takes 2 meters of rain. This next place takes 11. The best time to see this waterfall is when it isn't raining. It sits in the hills above Sora in Meghalaya, northeast India. Some of the wettest ground on the planet. 3 drops, one above the other, each landing in its own basin. The Kazi named it for the pools, not the water. Wei Saw Dong, square-shaped pool. Getting down is a steep descent through forest. 20 minutes down, longer coming back. And the color only arrives in the dry months. Limestone gives the water its blue, but only when the flow is low. In monsoon, the water runs heavy and the trail turns dangerous. 11 meters of rain a year. The falls are best without it. Everything so far was made by weather. This one was made by a man. Ali Pasha ruled his own country inside somebody else's empire. Born in Albania in 1740, he took Ioannina, then most of the coast. The Sultan in Constantinople was his master on paper and almost nowhere else. In 1804, he seized a small fort at the mouth of the Vivare Channel. A family from Corfu had built it first as a fortified farmhouse. He rebuilt it and put guns on it. The channel below joins a lake to the sea. It runs in both directions. Every 6 hours, the tide turns and the whole current reverses. Whoever held this island held the lake, the ruins of Butrint, and the crossing to Corfu. Ali Pasha was killed in 1822. Nobody has lived in it since. That fort has stood empty for 2 centuries. The next place fills every summer. The sand here squeaks underfoot. Twilight Beach sits outside Esperance on the south coast of Western Australia, 700 kilometers from Perth. The sand is fine quartz, ground almost to powder. That is why it squeaks. And white enough that people burn from below. It also explains the water. The bay is shallow and clear, and the floor under it is white. Light goes down, hits quartz, and comes back turquoise. The color is not in the sea, it is in the sand. One granite boulder sits offshore, close enough to swim to. People climb it and jump. There have been accidents. The Wujari were here long before the name Twilight. They call Esperance Kepa Curl, where the waters lie like boomerangs. Quartz ground to powder. Everything else follows from that. That color has an explanation. The next one has 2. The story starts with a stranger asking a village for water. Nobody gave any. The stranger promised a curse. The village was called Niamawi, on the northern tip of Grande Comore, in the Comoros. It is not there now. In its place is a crater full of salt water, meters from the Indian Ocean. Lac Salé. The lake still carries the village name. Geologists give a different account. 2 volcanoes built this island. Carthala is the famous one at the far end. This crater belongs to La Grille. It filled with salt water. Both stories end the same way. A town and then no town. The water changes color through the day. Turquoise, green, amber against black volcanic rock. Nobody has measured how deep it goes. The village is gone. Its name is still in the water. Everything so far has been above ground. The next place is not. 2 holes in a roof. That is the whole reason people come. Arikok National Park covers the wild eastern side of Aruba. Rock, scrub, and wind off the sea. Step into the cave and all of it stops. No wind, no glare. Then 2 columns of sunlight come down through the limestone. The chambers are bright enough to walk without a torch. Past them, the rock closes in and goes dark. Quadirikiri is a Kaketio word. They're painted figures surviving caves across this park. A later story explains the holes. A chief's daughter loved a man he refused. Both were shut away, and both died. Their spirits left through the roof. The light comes down. The story says, something went up. That cave still carries its own name. The next place carries somebody else's. It is not a castle, 5 floors and 20 rooms, cut into a limestone cliff in Arizona, high above a creek. Farmers built it and lived there for 300 years. In the 1860s, soldiers and miners came up the valley and found it. They decided only the Aztecs could have built it and named it after their emperor. This place was already empty when Montezuma was born. His empire was 1,000 miles south. Settlers made the same mistake across the southwest. Montezuma Castle. The builders are called the Sinagua. That name is wrong too. An archaeologist invented it in 1939, from the Spanish for without water. They built directly above a creek that flooded every year. 3 names attached to this place. Nobody knows the one they used. That cliff held 20 rooms. This one runs 160 kilometers. What happens if it goes wrong down there? The trail runs 85 kilometers. 5 days carrying everything. Hikers need a doctor's certificate to start. Day visitors cannot go down at all. Once down, there are 2 emergency exits. The first comes around day 3. Fish River Canyon in southern Namibia. 550 meters deep and the largest in Africa. The trail is open from May to September. Heat and flash floods close it. The river itself is barely there. It runs in the wet months, then breaks into pools. And it did not make all of this. The outer walls stand 27 kilometers apart, where the ground collapsed along old faults. The river only cut the gorge at the bottom. A rift with a canyon inside it, and a river that is usually gone. Hardly anyone has stood in that canyon. Everyone has seen the next place. Under the church, there was an older church. Under that, older ground still. This is the only natural island in Slovenia. It sits in a glacial lake under the Julian Alps. Bled tells it this way. A shrine stood here first, to Živa, the Slavic goddess of life. Christianity replaced it. The church went up on the same ground. 99 stone steps run from the dock to the door. Slovenian grooms carry their brides up all of them. At the top hangs a bell, cast in 1534. Ring it 3 times and make 1 wish. This is Lake Bled. People came here to ask for things long before the church. The building keeps changing. The asking does not. Bled keeps its past in buildings. The next place keeps it in handwriting. Sand keeps nothing. Sandstone keeps everything. This is southern Jordan, near the Saudi border. 74,000 hectares of red cliffs and narrow gorges. UNESCO protects it for 2 things. The landscape is only one of them. 25,000 carvings are cut into these rocks. 20,000 inscriptions sit beside them. 4 different scripts, Thamudic, Nabatean, and Arabic among them. UNESCO says these carvings trace the early development of the alphabet. 12,000 years of people living in one valley. This is Wadi Rum, and most of it is ordinary, not scripture, not decree. Names and messages left by herders who could read and write. A desert full of red rock, protected for what is written on it. 12,000 years of people in that valley. The last place has none. 100 years ago this year, the ground here blew open. 1926. Groundwater met magma under a salt plain, and the explosion left a crater 100 meters wide. This is the Danakil Depression in northern Ethiopia. Below sea level, where 3 tectonic plates are pulling apart. It holds the record for the hottest inhabited place ever measured. 34 degrees averaged across the whole year. The pools are hotter. Water comes out above 100 degrees, acidic enough that the pH drops below 0. Chlorine and sulfur hang over the field. The colors are iron. 150 grams in every liter, changing as it meets the air. Yellow, green, white, orange. This is Dallol. Italians mined here and left. The town is still on the map. Its population is 0. And scientists cannot agree on the simplest question about it. One team found microbes living in the pools. Another, the same year, looked in the same water and found nothing. This journey began on ground made of things that were once alive. It ends where nobody is sure anything is. Nothing here is lost. Only left alone, long enough to be forgotten. More are waiting behind this one. The next is already on screen. Let's go.